Greetings and welcome to the Seattle Law of One podcast. Today's episode is about the mission. If you are watching this, you are probably what is known in the Law of One as a wanderer, an advanced soul who chose to incarnate on Earth at this time with a mission to aid this planet in its spiritual evolution. What exactly is your mission? What are the risks and what are the rewards? And how can you remember your mission when it's so easy to forget? Let's find out. My name is Jonathan Tong, and I'm facilitator for the Seattle Law of One study group. We can be found in the list of study groups at the L&L Research website shown on your screen. We do also have a Facebook group, and we meet on Zoom twice a week, Tuesday from 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time, and Saturdays 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific Time. You don't have to live in Seattle or anywhere near Seattle to join our Facebook group or our Zoom sessions. Anyone who's interested and available is welcome to join. You can contact us at seattlelawofone@gmail.com to get on our mailing list. We send out emails once a week with the Zoom link and information on what we're talking about that week. We do also have a YouTube channel where we keep recordings of previous podcast episodes, as well as recordings of our monthly Q&As with Jim McCarty. Just go to our YouTube channel and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to get notifications when we upload new videos, and contact us at seattlelawofone@gmail.com if you'd like to sit in on any of our Q&A sessions with Jim McCarty. Otherwise, as mentioned, today's topic is in the mission. Let's go ahead and meet our panelists. Panelists, go ahead, let our viewers know who you are and where you're calling from, starting with Luis.
Hello, I am Luis Rieti. I live in Austin, Texas, but I'm originally from Honduras. And I'm very happy to be here on my first podcast.
We're so happy to have you on for the first time and hopefully not the last. So great to have you here. And Linda?
My name is Linda Hoagland. I'm calling from Lafayette, Louisiana. This is probably, I think, going to be my third podcast, and I would like to have all of you open your hearts and your minds to the words that Jonathan is going to be giving you today, because they're very wise thoughts.
And they are not mine. They're from channeled sources. Thank you for being here as always, Linda. And Susan?
I'm Susan Amato. I am here in Bellingham, Washington, and I am relatively new to Law of One. And I appreciate this opportunity, Jonathan, to participate in this discussion, because reviewing these passages, it's a great way to learn.
Indeed. So great to have you on for the first time and hopefully not the last time. And you are the stand-in for everyone who's watching this who is relatively new to the Law of One. So thank you for being a part of this. I did want to remind our viewers, as always, that none of us here are experts or authorities on the Law of One. We are just normal people like you talking about things of a spiritual nature that seem important to us. Anything that any of us say could be wrong. You're welcome to disagree with anything or everything that any of us say. If you are already familiar with the Law of One and the entity known as Quo, you might want to skip ahead to the chapter on the Wanderer's mission. Otherwise, for those who are new to the Law of One, you can think of the Law of One as a set of spiritual teachings based on the understanding that all is one, and that one thing is love. All of the reading passages that we're looking at today came to us through the process known as channeling. You can think of channeling as a form of telepathic communication between humans and entities such as angelic beings, extraterrestrial beings, inner planes beings, spirits of deceased, higher self, etc. A channel basically serves as a mouthpiece for other entities to speak through, and in this case, those entities appear to be of extraterrestrial origin. There are two types of channeling that have been developed by our friends at L&L Research. Trance channeling is when the channel is in a trance state, meaning they are subconscious or unconscious, as if asleep, meaning they are not aware of what words are coming out of their mouths as they're saying them. This is how contact was made with an entity known as Ra back in the early 1980s. Conscious channeling is when the channel is in a conscious but deep meditative state, meaning they're only somewhat aware of what words are coming out of their mouth as they're saying them, like somebody talking in their sleep or just coming out of sleep. This is how contact was made with the entity known as Quo, starting in the mid-1980s up to present day. Who is Quo? You can think of Quo as a group entity made up of three social memory complexes: Ra at sixth density, Latwii at fifth density, Hatan at fourth density. You can think of the social memory complex as a planetary consciousness. It would be as if the entire human population of Earth was merged into one group mind. You can think of densities or dimensions as different levels of consciousness or different levels of reality, since those two things are so closely intertwined. Imagine, if you will, that the elements of earth, fire, water, and air have some form of consciousness, as many indigenous cultures have been saying they do for centuries. We refer to this as first density. You can think of second density as the level of consciousness of plants and animals. Clearly, a quantum leap above and beyond the consciousness of what we would refer to as inanimate matter, like earth or water. You can think of third density as the level of consciousness of humans and cetaceans, like whales and dolphins. Again, a significant quantum leap above and beyond the consciousness of plants or other animals. You can think of fourth density as the level of consciousness of the social memory complex. Again, as if the entire human population of planet Earth was merged into one single group mind. Clearly, a big quantum leap in consciousness above and beyond that of an individual person. You can think of fifth density and sixth density as whatever would be comparable quantum leaps beyond that. And there is much more that could be said about that. If you are interested, check out our podcast episode on densities and dimensions. Otherwise, for now, suffice it to say, the entity known as Quo appears to be a group entity made up of three planetary consciousnesses: Ra at sixth density, Latwii at fifth density, Hatan at fourth density. First contact with Quo was made by the LNL research channeling team in 1986, almost 2 years after the end of the Ra contact in 1984. They have been channeled every month since then, up to present day, by the LNL research channeling team. Transcripts of those sessions can be found in the LNL Conscious Channeling Library shown on your screen. Having said all that, let's go ahead and take a look at a few passages on the Wanderer's mission. In session 12 of the Raw Contact, question 26, the questioner asks, "Who are wanderers? Where do they come from?" Ra: I am Ra. Imagine, if you will, the sands of your shores. As countless as the grains of sand are the sources of intelligent infinity. When a social memory complex has achieved its complete understanding of its desire, it may conclude that its desire is service to others with a distortion towards reaching their hand, figuratively, to any entities who call for aid. These entities, whom you may call the brothers and sisters of sorrow, move toward this calling of sorrow. These entities are from all reaches of the infinite creation and are bound together by the desire to serve in this distortion. Questioner: How many of them are incarnate on earth now? Ra: I am Ra. The number is approximate due to a heavy influence of those birthed at this time, due to an intensive need to lighten the planetary vibration and thus aid in harvest. The number approaches 65 million. I don't know about you guys, but the number 65 million was the first thing that jumped out to me. It's like, wow, that's a lot more than I would have expected. 1 million, I'm thinking, is a lot, but 65 million souls coming here answering a call for aid is just a beautiful thing to contemplate. What do you think, Luis? Any thoughts on anything here?
I'll comment on what you just said. I do remember the first time reading this, I was also similarly impressed, and it was comforting to me, to feel first off, oh, maybe this kind of explains how I feel about myself and the world, but there's all these millions apparently of people just like me, and I will add, I remember reading a quote channeling, and I cannot remember what year it was from, but I think it was pretty recent, in which uh, I remember they mentioned a much more astonishing number, or figure, which was, I think, a percentage, and I think they said that about a third of the
A
planet
third?
more recently
Wow.
was not necessarily the same kind of wonder in this particular passage, but I think including all those fourth density early,
Oh, indigo children.
yes.
Wow. That's something. I don't think I've seen that. I would be surprised if it was a third of 8 billion souls. I would love to see that passage if you run across it or can paste it. Otherwise,
For
yeah.
sure.
I mean, I'm sure there's more than 65 million now because the need is so much stronger now than it was back in the early 1980s. So, yeah, yeah, that's something.
Yeah,
What do you,
and the way
oh, go ahead.
I'll just comment on that real quick. The way to me at least, the reason it made sense was, um, yeah, as the vibrations of fourth density become stronger and stronger, not only is it easier for wanderers of different kinds to be here, and particularly those that are preparing, you know, 4D for the actual experience, but it's also a little bit more challenging for 3D souls that are kind of at some sort of a cutoff of vibration, right? And so I see a huge shift, particularly with the younger generations, that's just gonna continue happening.
I think so. Yeah, I think you're right. And I think it would be fair to guess that out of whatever that really big number is, many, if most of them, are probably asleep or partly asleep or mostly asleep and have not quite awakened and remembered who they are and why they're here, which I guess is part of the reason why we're doing these podcasts and such. What do you think, Linda? Anything to add?
Well, like I said, this number of 65 million was back about 50 years ago. And the number, I'm sure, is, as Luis and you have remarked, is exponentially greater, including the fact that there's a lot of dual activated people being born right now that are both third and fourth density. I also think that our increased technological capabilities have really helped a lot in allowing us to connect with other selves, which is such a great comfort for those of us who, back in the 80s, we thought we were the only people in the world who were feeling as alienated as we were. And right now we know that, hey, we got brothers and sisters everywhere, and that's just a comfort.
That is hugely comforting. Yeah, for sure. And I'm hoping that our viewers watching this are able to connect somehow with other viewers or other seekers through study groups or whatever. Susan, anything to add?
Um, just that this is a beautiful passage, and it's a beautiful demonstration of love and service and compassion, and not it does not come out of duty or command, but from the heart and from in the true spirit of service to others. And um, and then just to comment on the number, when I read 65 million, like all of you, I thought that's a very comforting, reassuring number. Then I broke it down and I thought that's approximately 7% of the population. Now I know, according to Luis and Linda, the number has changed. It's increased. And that's even more comforting. But initially I was thinking 7%. How does 7%, 65 million people out of 8.2 billion, lighten the frequency of the planet? That seems like an incredible task. And
I'm surprised it's that big a percent. I was assuming that was more
yeah,
like, I don't know, 1%, 2%, 3%.
I think I was thinking of the planet in very dire, very dire straits, and was worried that 7% is not enough. But I think obviously the number is perfect, and the number, whatever it is now, is perfect because you can't have too many wanderers, and you can't have too few wanderers. You have to have just the right amount to create that resonance. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing to consider. And I know that anyone who's studied the law of one for a while knows that it's not just individuals who can graduate from third density to fourth density, but it's humanity as a whole. And it's not like 8 billion souls are all going to graduate to fourth density at the same time. They've said many times that it just requires a smaller number, a critical mass of individuals who like choose the service to others path over service to self, and could be as small as 10%. I know 10% is something that goes with the Maharishi effect. I think 10% of a population meditating for peace can actually make a difference, visible difference. I don't know. Great start on this. I think I had one other passage to look at about wanderers. Did anybody have anything to add on this passage before we look at another one? Cool. This is from session 65, question 12, where Ra says about wanderers, you may at this time note that as with any entities, each wanderer has its unique abilities, biases, and specialties, so that from each portion of each density represented among the wanderers comes an array of pre-incarnative talents, which then may be expressed upon this plane which you now experience, so that each wanderer, in offering itself before incarnation, has some special service to offer, in addition to the doubling effect of planetary love and light, and the basic function of serving as beacon or shepherd. Thus, there are those of fifth density whose abilities to express wisdom are great. There are fourth and sixth density wanderers whose ability to serve as, shall we say, passive radiators or broadcasters of love and love light are immense. There are many others whose talents brought into this density are quite varied. Thus, wanderers have three basic functions once the forgetting is penetrated. The first two being basic, the tertiary one being unique to that particular mind, body, spirit complex. Super fascinating. As I'm understanding this, for lack of a better word, they're saying that wanderers generally have three functions. One is to serve as a beacon or shepherd, just to radiate light and love in order to help lighten planetary vibrations. Second one is to add to the doubling effect, because every individual that you add to a group doubles the effect of the group before that, also known as the law of squares. And then the third function is just whatever unique gifts and talents each soul brings to its own incarnation. I just think that's super cool and beautiful. You have any thoughts on that, Linda?
I think it's fascinating to think that all of the beings that have been brought down onto this planet, each with particular talents, whether it be music or, speech or teaching or healing, all of us come down here with something that we've brought from our other density of choice, and we bring it back onto the earth, and we bless this planet with all the love and the light of the whole universe. I think it's just wonderful to sit there and think about that.
It is a fascinating thing to contemplate. And I do remember some session where Quo said something to the effect that people we see as super accomplished artists, this is not their first time doing that. They did just learn how to get that good this time around. And yeah, that's amazing. Susan, anything to add?
Just briefly, I share that appreciation and amazement. It seems like an incredibly perfect orchestration, having all of these entities, specific portions of their density with their unique talents, so that they can uniquely reach out to other unique entities on the planet. It is a beautiful, perfect orchestration, and it helps to understand why it takes centuries of planning.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What do you think, Luis? Anything to add?
Yeah, I agree with Linda's and Susan's sentiments, and what stood out for me here too was just a remembrance of the passive service that we all wonder share, and how powerful that is.
Yeah, I don't think that can be said enough, because I'm guessing a lot of people think that you have to do some sort of gift that's like really visible, being a channel or a healer or a great podcaster, YouTuber, or a great artist, performer. And like you're saying, just being who you are and being what they called passive radiators, broadcasters of love light. in the most humble kind of way. I think that's beautiful, inspiring thing. Anybody else have any other thoughts on this passage?
I do think it's interesting or it might be good to know to everyone to not sit there and kick themselves if they don't understand what their mission is right now. I really didn't get down to it until maybe a decade ago, of what my special talent was. So, just sit there and allow it to evolve as it is. Don't sit there and push it and feel I got to find it out. It'll happen.
Yeah.
There's a plan for everything.
Amen.
Yeah, and especially if the things that you're interested in are not things that are necessarily valued by our culture or society. I think Quo said that is very often the case, and so it's makes it more challenging to express yourself as you feel who you really are on the deepest level, even though society doesn't really seem to value that in particular. Anybody else? Anything to add before we look at another passage? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at what is referred to in the Law of One as graduation or harvest. For those who are not familiar with this term or new to the Law of One, both those words, graduation and harvest, refer to the same process. I just personally like using the word graduation better than harvest, but either case, you're referring to making a quantum leap from one density to the next. In our case, the leap from third density to fourth density. Graduation of third density is known as the density of choice, because the whole point of third density, the meaning of life as it were, is to make a choice between what's referred to as the paths of service to self, or STS for short, or service to others, or STO for short. To graduate on the service to self path, you have to achieve a vibration level of at least 95% service to self, 5% service to others, meaning, to put it in simplified terms, you spend at least 95% of your waking hours thinking only of your own wants, needs, and desires, and how to manipulate others for your own increases in powers. And you don't spend more than 5% of your time thinking about the needs or wants of anyone else. Service to others, to graduate on the service to others path, you have to achieve a vibration level of at least 51% service to others, 49% service to self, meaning that you are thinking of others a little bit more than yourself. If you want to learn more about this, check out our podcast episode on harvest graduation. Otherwise, in session 52, question 9, Ra said, "There are several reasons for incarnation during harvest. They may be divided by the terms self and other self. The overriding reason for the offering of these brothers and sisters of sorrow in incarnative states is the possibility of aiding other selves by the lightening of the planetary consciousness distortions, and the probability of offering catalysts to other selves, which will increase the harvest. There are two other reasons for choosing this service, which have to do with the self. The wanderer, if it remembers and dedicates itself to service, will polarize much more rapidly than is possible in the far more etiolated realms of higher density catalyst. The final reason is within the mind-body-spirit totality, or the social memory complex totality, which may judge that an entity or members of a societal entity can make use of third density catalyst to recapitulate a learning teaching which is adjudged to be less than perfectly balanced. This especially applies to those entering into and proceeding through sixth density, wherein the balance between compassion and wisdom is perfected." Whole lot of stuff to unpack in this passage. Super interesting. Susan, any thoughts, reflections on anything here?
I thought was interesting is the process of spiritual evolution is not linear, because when you find out that these sixth density beings still have to balance out compassion with knowledge, compassion and wisdom, they come back to third density in order to perfect that balance, and then have the potential of being quagmired in the third density reincarnation process. And so it is not a linear process. And I just thought that that was very interesting. And also, just to comment briefly, the process of awakening and the role of the wanderer. It is always, in all of these slides, it is always evident the importance of preserving free will. And wanderers don't force awakening. They make it more accessible for those whose subconscious is already seeking a path. And so they're not teachers imposing knowledge. And it kind of gets back to, why can't we just, to accelerate the graduation for everybody, why can't we send more wanderers to the planet Earth so that we increase the numbers? And you get into all kinds of free will issues. And so it's just this constant understanding and appreciation for how important it is for entities on the planet to exercise free will and make that first choice.
Yeah, so important, all those things that you said. I am reminded of, you were talking about the last part about sixth density wanderers and how there seems to be a looping effect where sixth density entities will come back and repeat third density in order to answer the call for aid. And reminds me that I believe Quo said in another passage we'll be seeing that the vast majority of wanderers on the planet are indeed from sixth density, and that the raw social memory complex itself is from sixth density. And so not that surprising if many of the wanderers on Earth are in fact part of the raw social memory complex, but came here because they need to refine that balance between fourth density love, fifth density wisdom in order to graduate to the next level of seventh density, since sixth density is all about unifying those things together. That's a super beautiful thing to think about. You have anything to add, Luis? Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I remember in the earlier years after thinking that I was a wanderer and exploring that notion in meditation, having some past life regressions. I'm sure maybe everyone here has had those. um, one insight I gathered was that uh, one of my reasons for being here was to work on my own uh, chakra balance, and particularly because my third density had been pretty harmonious and kind of quick, or you could say easy. And so one of my lessons was to come back and get a little fire in my belly. So I thought that was yeah, it's not always obvious, what everyone is learning.
For sure. Yeah, and I believe Ra said that their graduation process was very smooth and harmonious, and that it does become a problem later on for many social memory complexes because they haven't had to struggle as much as folks on Earth have. So, yeah, it would be a reason to send entities back who need to experience the fires of third density Earth in order to refine that balance. Super cool thing. Linda, anything to add?
Yeah, it is amazing that we're in coming back here, we're not only assisting the entities of this Earth planet, we are also assisting the entities or the social memory complex that we came from, because every experience that we're having here gets added back into our social memory complex, all these experiences that we're going through. And Susan, what you said about a free will, when we come down here often, we are making plans with other selves to prior to our incarnation here to assist them in their spiritual growth. So a lot of times we're not infringing on free will. We are, in some cases, kind of following the path that we agreed on prior to coming down here. And you're right, it's very difficult, the fine line between infringing upon free will and following your incarnative path.
For sure. Yeah, we did not come here to be Jehovah's Witnesses. Run all on one and to go knocking on people's doors saying, "Excuse me, have you heard about our Lord and Savior Ra?" Yeah, probably.
I,
Yeah.
I want to add a comment real quick on that subject. I felt like a really big breakthrough in my own learning was by studying the Kabbalah and kind of in the heart space. There's a couple of archetypes that are counterbalancing what is considered like that level of consciousness, like the heart consciousness, and one of them's obvious. It's mercy and kindness and giving, right? But the other one is not very obvious, which is strength and discipline, and essentially destructive force. And so creating and destroying, like balancing them in the heart. And I think this is really insightful, or was insightful to me, regarding what we're talking about, right? And like it's tempting to try to make ourselves be the nice, kind, mercy person all the time, right? But I think if we're really honest with ourselves and want to be authentic as much as possible, right? It's allowing that other side to also express itself with honesty, and it could still be with compassion. And I think that's where this says we're offering catalyst to other selves. It's not always pretty.
Tough love, is that what you're suggesting?
Well, yeah, that's the easiest way to look at it, right? But I think even just speaking your mind when you're not in agreement with somebody, right? And not just saying just to say yes, little things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. I agree with everything. And for sure, I mean, I think that is the challenge of surviving day to day on a extremely late third density, early fourth density planet Earth. That it is an extremely challenging, tough, harsh environment. And to some degree, you do need to have a certain toughness and fierceness to be able to get through, but without closing your heart, to be able to not close your heart to the pain and suffering and empathy for others, but still be able to get through all that with an open heart. That, I think, is the challenge for sure. Anybody else have any thoughts on anything on this passage before we look at another one? Sounds good. This is from October 14th, 2023, and Quo said, "For the graduation into the fourth density is at hand, and the planet itself has moved into that realm of vibration, and the various population members of the planet are scattered throughout the spectrum and have not been able to, shall we say, point the needle of the compass into one direction of service to others or service to self, but yet dwell within the sinkhole of indifference. These wanderers have made an agreement, shall we say, to come here to help those entities who have not been able to utilize their own desire to seek more and more of the Creator within themselves, that desire still remaining within the subconscious mind, the conscious mind being unaware of this nature. Thus, the wanderer has come to aid in the evolution of each of the entities upon planet Earth, and may, when it has completed its mission, shall we say, move back to the home density." This phrase that they used up here of pointing the needle, moving the needle, pointing the needle, is a phrase that's been used in many times to try to illustrate where we are at planet Earth. And if you look at the graphic on your screen, that's kind of one way of visualizing it. You can see the dial kind of ranges from 100% service to self on the left to 100% service to others on the right. So as they said, the graduation requirement for service to others is at least 51% service to others and 49% service to self. The graduation requirement for service to self is at least 95% service to self, 5% service to others. So that whole area in between is what they were referring to as the sinkhole of indifference, because the vast majority of entities on the planet either were not aware that there was a choice to be made in the first place, or if they have made a choice, just haven't been able to polarize enough to graduate on either path. Quo once said the default setting for most folks on Earth is 75% service to self, 25% service to others, meaning most people probably spend about 3/4 of their waking hours just thinking of their own needs and wants and desires and just trying to make ends meet. and probably don't spend more than 25% thinking about the well-being or needs of others. So as they have said, you can graduate both as an individual or as a collective. So suffice it to say, that there are entities on Earth, including those of us on the Zoom call and you who are probably watching this on video, who are trying to help humanity as a collective to choose to live in a planet based on love and peace and understanding and harmony as a service to others. And there is a much smaller but still significant number of entities trying to graduate on the service to self path. Or trying to get humanity to choose to live in a world of fear and war and bellicosity and enslavement. So you could say that the history of humanity has been kind of this tug of war between the two, with the needle never being able to quite settle enough on one or the other. Panelists, any thoughts on this? Luis, anything from this passage?
No, I think that you captured it pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really something. What's one thing that I think I've appreciated about the Law of One is that it kind of provides a lens that you can look at the world through that helps it make more sense. Because otherwise, I would have a really hard time trying to make a sense out of what's been going on in the world these days. Linda, any thoughts on anything here?
Well, there's always the issue, though, that when us wanderers are climbing that staircase, hoping to get back to our home density, that we just may not make it, that we may have to step off early because before we have come to our awakening on this planet, may have committed some acts that were not in the kindest sense, and that may impede our progressing back to where our home density is.
Indeed. Yeah, that is, of course, one of the huge risks to being a wanderer is that you have to pass through what's called the veil of forgetting, meaning you forget that all is one. You forget that everything that appears to be another self is just another you, another creator. And some never wake up from that. That's the challenge. What do you think, Susan? Anything to add?
I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think just trying to remember all this stuff on a daily basis is kind of the challenge that all of us have been given. Let's go ahead and take a look at a couple passages on what Linda was alluding to, and that is risks of the mission. In session 12 of the Raw Contact, the questioner asks, are most of these from the fourth density? What density do they come from? Ra, I am Ra. Few there are of fourth density. The largest number of wanderers, as you call them, are of the sixth density. The desire to serve must be distorted towards a great deal of purity of mind and what you call foolhardiness or bravery, depending upon your distortion complex judgment. The challenge danger of the wanderer is that it will forget its mission, become karmically entangled, and thus be swept into the maelstrom from which it had incarnated to aid the destruction. Questioner, what could one of these entities do to become karmically entangled? Could you give us an example? Ra, I am Ra, an entity which acts in a consciously unloving manner in action with other beings can become karmically entangled. This, of course, is what Linda was referring to a few minutes ago. And yeah, boy, that's really something. Anyone who acts in a consciously unloving manner in action with other beings can become karmically entangled. I think I'm screwed if that's the case, because I'm pretty sure I've been consciously unloving to a lot of individuals many times. What do you think, Linda? What do you make out of that? Like, how bad do you have to be to somebody to become karmically entangled?
I agree with you 1,000,000%, Jonathan. I sit here and I look back at times when I may have spoken harshly with a classmate in college, and I'm sitting there now saying, why did I do that? Why did I say those harsh words? And then all I remember is as long as you can forgive yourself, then you can break that karmic entanglement. So go back every day and look at the harsh or nasty thing that you might have done. Say, I'm a human being. I'm in third density. All is well. There's no mistakes. And then let it go.
Yeah. I find it hard to believe that like one instance of saying something mean or rude to somebody means you got to come back and do third density again and heal up that karma. I'm thinking it's got to be more like a extended thing, like being in an abusive relationship with somebody or doing
Does it?
something abusive to others.
Jonathan, it doesn't say that. It says an entity which acts in a consciously unloving manner in action with other human beings is karmically involved.
Yeah, yeah,
Black and white.
yeah, yeah. Or at least blue on the on this screen.
That too.
What do you think, Susan? Any thoughts on that? What are your impressions, thoughts?
Just to add to that point, I very much appreciate and am grateful for the word consciously, because it's not about making mistakes or having human flaws. It's about knowingly, deliberately choosing to act in an unloving way. That's the way that I read that. And it's consistent with forgive them, for they know not what they do. I think I'm just very grateful for the consciously unloving inclusion in this passage.
Intent is everything, huh? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, absolutely. Luis, what do you think?
Yes, I agree with Susan's point, and for me, when I've read this, and based on my own self healing journey, I've made a distinction between when I'm triggered and I do something because I'm triggered, and I see that as my unconscious coming out. Right, my unconscious. There's pain, there's some imbalance, and it's expressing itself. That's my catalyst. I can work with it versus how Susan very well described it, right? Which is like there's this moment that there's an awareness that this would be an unloving thing to do, and you still do it anyways, or you maybe even worse, you want to do it. You have pleasure in doing it, and I see there's some form of energetic weight behind not just the actions, but the thought, the intention, and to your point, Jonathan, the metaphysical weight, right, is what we have to. Well, we can't see it, we can't measure it, but I think that's what could really make a big difference.
For sure, and everything that you were saying about being triggered and learning how to work through that catalyst so that you get beyond that, I think that makes perfect sense. And I think that's part of what I'm guessing that's part of what you were referring to before in terms of the things that we came down here to do to help ourselves grow as opposed to helping the planet necessarily. I am reminded there was a passage, I think it might be in our Graduation Harvest podcast, where Quo said something to the effect that if you set your mind to make your choice of service to others and you do the best you can every day, odds are very much in your favor that you're going to graduate, and that it's really about the vibration level that you're at the time of at the time that you leave this incarnation and have that opportunity to walk the steps of light to graduate. It's about your vibration level, they're saying, more than just like some individual random event that happened at some random time, which I think is comforting. I think that makes sense to me. It's just who you are, your essence vibrationally. What do you think, Linda? Does that make sense to you, do you think? Would you see it a different way?
I'm just going to pass on this one.
Yeah, and rightly so. I mean, we're all just sharing opinions here. I certainly could be wrong on that, as could any of us. Anybody have any thoughts on this before we look at another passage?
I'll make a comment on something Linda said too, that we do kind of get stuck in the linear time, and I think it's very powerful to realize that we can absolutely work on earlier versions of us and things we did in the past.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I appreciate the practice of Ho'oponopono, which I know Linda has mentioned many times in our Zoom sessions, of being able to go back to something that happened a long time ago and to say to that person, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and thank you, and that It's an old tradition, I think, from native Hawaiian cultures, which I think speaks well to that. Anybody have anything to add on this? Let's take a look at another passage. This is a longer one from May 22nd, 1994. And quote here said, "So at the heart of being a wanderer is that feeling of dislocation, of being in the world, but not of the world in which you find yourselves. Because the situation seems full of discomfort, many who have wandered here are simply miserable without finding any comfort. To respond to that need for comforting, some who have responded have leaned in their discussions heavily towards comforting wanderers by encouraging a sense of separation from native Earth humans. We do not encourage this line of reasoning because each wanderer, in coming into your Earth sphere of influence, took upon it the responsibility of citizenship of this Earth. As much as any other native inhabitant, wanderers will be expected to walk the steps of light when this incarnational experience is at hand. And just as much as any native inhabitant of Earth, if the steps are walked to a point of comfort within third density, the wanderer shall not return to its home vibratory nexus, but rather shall continue in third density until graduation is achieved. Therefore, we greatly encourage all wanderers to take up the burden of dual existence, for that is precisely why you have put yourselves to this task. As difficult and disagreeable as it sometimes is to live with this double vibratory pattern, this difficulty is worthwhile and 100 times worthwhile, for the basic vocation of every wanderer is to bear witness to the light and the love of the one infinite Creator. Therefore, the life may seem to be full of everyday matters, yet offer ample time and space for the spiritual vocation to which wanderers have called themselves, that of bearing witness. And how does a wanderer bear this witness? It might seem that witnesses are best when they are expressing by words that witness to which they hew. Yet this is actually not so. Rather, many wanderers may best bear witness by being most fully themselves, for it is the basic vibratory complex carried in the violet ray by each wanderer that is witnessed by its very essence. I really love this passage, and I think it's that last part that really grabs me the most, that you can best accomplish your mission just by being yourself most fully, and you don't have to do anything more complicated than that. What a beautiful way to run a universe. I just love that. What do you think, Susan? Any thoughts on anything here?
I like that last verse too. I was thinking that being is the mission, and I really appreciated that because it gives us permission to get out of doing and into being and into presence. There's a mention of walking the steps of light to a point of comfort. I've read that a couple of times before. I read this in preparation for this discussion, and I wasn't quite clear on what that meant. And this was a great opportunity because I had to think about it, what that looks like. What does that look like for a wanderer to walk to a point of comfort? And then I realized it's choosing fear over love. It's over identification with the third density programming, living in survival mode, living in that sinkhole of indifference. And I see that would be very easy. And comfort is a kind of zone of danger. And so that's given me pause for my own life and thinking about all the ways that I am by default biased towards comfort. And so it's given me a lot to think about in terms of how I make choices. Am I moving out of fear or am I moving out of love and faith? So that meant a lot to me, that section of the slide.
Yeah, so beautifully said. Really appreciate sharing that. And yeah, it does remind me, probably worth noting for folks who are new to the Law of One, that it has been said many, many times that when one dies, when one leaves this incarnation, one is given the opportunity to what they refer to as walking the steps of light to determine what density would be your best density to go to after this. And I think it is described much like you said, you're walking on steps of light, and each step you go further is brighter, more intense light. You could say, I think it would be fair to say, you could be walking through third density light and then into fourth density light and then into fifth density light and so on. And you just stop where it seems like it's too much. It's more than you can handle. It's beyond your ability to tolerate light that bright, that pure. So wherever you stop is just where you naturally have chosen, where you feel most comfortable. And could end up being in third density again, or it might be fourth or fifth or sixth density. What do you think? Luis, anything to add? Your thoughts on that? Or anything
Uh,
else in this passage?
yeah, well, the part that really stood out to me was the third paragraph, actually, and I feel like this dual existence is has been a big challenge for me, and over over the years, I felt there was almost like a fight, right, between one side of me and the other. And for a long time, it seemed like they were mutually exclusive, essentially, right? Like I either prioritize one or the other. Um, but what I've learned is as I just let go and trust that whatever situations I'm given are for my best, as well as for those around me, right? For me to be of service. uh, it's definitely kind of softened that view, and I have seen over time, like magically, I no longer see that distinction. It's kind of blended together now. And there wasn't one moment when that happened. It just kind of gradually has happened, and I really like that. The last sentence here, it says, therefore, the life may be seen to be full of everyday matters, yet offer ample time and space for the spiritual vocation to which wanderers have called themselves. And I think, that is something not a lot of people realize. But if you really look not only at your life, but of those around you, we really are given all the opportunities we need, even if that means like, oh, I lost my job and all of a sudden I'm stressed out, but all of a sudden I have all this time to meditate and go inside, right? Like there's a lot of difficult situations that if you really accept them, right, can really be a blessing.
What a beautiful teaching, and something I'm guessing that many of our viewers can relate to. Appreciate your sharing that. Linda, anything to add?
Nothing to add there, that much. I do agree so much with Susan about the importance of being is the importance of doing. That just being here and radiating the love and the light is sometimes all that needs to be done.
For sure.
And Jonathan, I'd like to add something else if you got a moment more.
Of course.
That's the first time I've come across the burden of dual existence. And it occurs to me that wanderers, there's a lot of humility involved in that experience, being a wanderer. You're not exempt from the rules. You have to play by the same rules. You're not guaranteed graduation. And your job isn't to save people with words or writing books or being a professional channeler. And your job is to be yourself at the highest vibration. And I would imagine that takes a lot of. I mean, that's an experience requiring a lot of humility. So.
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes I see the word wanderer capitalized with a capital W. Other times I don't. I guess depending on who was editing that particular session. But yeah, I think many of us get caught up in labels, and many of us feel like it would be a cool thing to be perceived as a wanderer or a starseed. I think that's another term that refers to that. And yeah, I would say if that label makes you feel like you're better than anyone else, then yeah, probably not understanding the label and what it means. Because I think it is by nature a very humble thing, coming here to be of service to others. Anybody have anything to add before we look at something else? Really appreciating the discussion so far, and I'm enjoying hearing everybody's points of view. Let's take a look at a few passages on open heart. I enjoyed putting this graphic together along with a little beating green heart there for our perceptive viewers. Going to leave it up there for a couple seconds. For those who are not familiar with this, energy centers, as they're referred to in the Law of One, are more or less the same thing as chakras, as they're referred to in Hinduism. And they're talked about a lot in Law of One channeling sessions. And I think it would be fair to say that working with your energy centers, particularly the green ray open heart, is super important. It is understood in the Law of One in Hinduism that prana, as it's referred to in Hinduism, chi, as it's referred to in Taoism, love light, as it's referred to in the Law of One, the force, as it's referred to in Star Wars, flows through everything, coming up through the earth and entering our red ray and root chakra, which deals with survival, sexual reproduction, fundamental vitality. From there, energy goes up into your orange ray or sacral chakra, which deals with personal identity, relationships with other individual selves. From there, energy goes up to your yellow ray or solar plexus chakra, which deals with group identity, relationships with groups of other selves. And from there, it goes up to the green ray or heart chakra, which deals with universal, unconditional love and is a springboard for higher chakras. In as many ways, could be considered the most important energy center to work with in our incarnations. If you're interested in learning more about it, check out our podcast episode on energy centers and chakras. Otherwise, on March 23rd, 1997, Quo said, "Those who speak spiritually do indeed have an urgent and telling purpose, and yet that purpose is not one which naturally occurs to those within the illusion. For within the illusion, there is always that feeling of doing something in order to be useful. And as spiritual entities, that translates into the feeling that one has to be doing something, some career, some vocation or calling whose activity serves as the spiritual purposes of humankind. However, it is our opinion that the mission and the purpose for which each of you took incarnation was simply to live, to offer your vibrations to the planetary consciousness. It may seem that this offering of self to lighten the planetary web of consciousness is a small thing, perhaps a useless thing, for seekers generally do not feel that they are operating at a high vibration. Yet with all the confusion and all the distortion surrounding reactions to the confusion notwithstanding, living moment by moment with the heart open to love is enough purpose and mission to cram a lifetime so full that it radiates life. Certainly, some entities are offered careers or callings which are obviously helpful, and for those people there is the siren call of, look what I am doing, I can be proud. You see, this is a secondary or indirect way of serving. It only seems direct because of the way the manifestation seems. The actual direct and common career of each seeker, first of all, is to live and be an entity of loving and being loved, an entity of the open heart. I really love that so much, the idea that that's your career. You can make a career out of keeping an open heart, and that's enough for a lifetime. What do you think? Luis, any thoughts on anything here?
Yeah, I love that too, Jonathan. The career of being loved and loving. That's pretty awesome. One thing that I'll comment is, yeah, like it's very easy to get caught up in the doing, and I myself have definitely done that. And the world itself seems to be all focused on doing, especially you see the media and watch movies, and I mean everyone, all they talk about is what everyone's doing. So I think the sense of identity with what you do has been the cause of so much pain for so many people. So yeah, I think there's so much power, self-liberating power in just accepting ourselves.
For sure. Yeah, I would think it fair to say it's pretty standard conversation for somebody to ask you what you do for a living, as if you don't have some sort of job that involves working outside of the house for some amount of money, then what are you doing with your life? You're wasting your life. And that's a shame that there is that social perception. Because I think this passage makes a good case for, no, that's really not important. What you're doing to pay the bills, what you're doing to help lighten earth energies can be done anywhere, anytime. What do you think? Linda, anything to add?
I love this quote. Um, I'm, like I said, I'm going into my seventh decade. I'm almost 70 years old now. And I could look back and think, well, what a waste this life has been. I haven't cured cancer. I haven't sat there and gotten rid of apartheid or other societal ills. But then this allows us to know that that's not the reason we're all here. We are here to just love. And as long as we love, that is the most important thing that we can do in this world. There's another, like I think that Ross said this, that, the if you scrub the toilet and you do it with love in your heart, you're doing as much for this world as if you had done something like cure cancer. And that's the important thing. Whatever we're doing, no matter how small it may seem, we are vital to helping lift the vibration of this planet. And I just love this statement here.
And it's so important to remember because, as you're suggesting, that's really not the message that we get from society and from those around us. And yeah, I love that passage you were referring to. I can't remember what year it was, but I do know it was Quo, and they were talking about how. Well, I think it was in a session where the main question was, what about people who aren't sure what their mission or what their purpose was in life? And Quo said, as you said so beautifully, a person who scrubs the toilet with love in their heart is doing as much or maybe more than somebody who cures cancer but without love in their heart. What a beautiful thing to contemplate. Susan, anything to add?
Just to reiterate, it's so beautiful, and it takes the pressure off of third density living of, what you do matters more than what you are, who you are. And I love this portion of this passage where, in terms of the mission of your doing, it's the doing part of what wanderers do, and that's to consult your gifts. And I think that is another way of saying, be your authentic self, and not conforming to third density images. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's been said in so many different passages in so many different ways that one of the big lessons that so many of us came here to learn is how to be true to ourselves in spite of overwhelming resistance from those around us not to do that. That's like, I mean, whether it's related to your whatever you do for a living or your sexual gender orientation or being an artist instead of something more practical. I think it works so many different ways with so many different individuals. And yet that's the lesson. The resistance training is that we're to help us build our spiritual muscles. Beautiful thing for sure. Oh, yeah, anybody else? Any thoughts wanted to share on anything in this passage? Nice. I've actually got a couple more on open heart because it is so important. This was from March 16th, 1997, and it has been edited for brevity. Quo says, beneath the masks and roles that are appropriate for each to play in your dance on the sea of confusion, you are who you are, and it is that essence that is your gift and your main service. As you breathe in and as you breathe out, you breathe the world, you breathe illusion, and you are love. You can be more true to that underlying and encircling essence, but you shall, without fail, perform your service and complete your mission, because your basic mission is to live a life amongst those people with whom you find yourself, having a heart that is consciously open as is possible on a stable basis. I'm guessing what they meant to say at the end is having a heart that is consciously open as much as possible or as often as possible on a stable basis. And what a beautiful thing to consider that it's impossible to fail in your mission because your mission is just to be here, to exist. That's such a, I just find that so beautiful and reassuring. Linda, any thoughts on anything here?
No additional thoughts. You said, it's just are important to be here, to exude the love and the light that we, and just, bless the planet that way. It's such a simple mission when you actually think about it. Just love.
And yet so difficult when you think of all the people and things that can make it difficult to do that very thing. It's amazing. Susan, anything to add?
I don't. I love this slide. I don't have anything else to add.
Yeah, who could say it better than Quo, really? Who among us is smarter than three planetary consciousnesses millions of years advanced ahead of us? Luis, you want to take a shot at it? Any thoughts, reflections on anything here?
Well, I'll just bring a little bit of focus to one sentence, which is your basic mission is to live a life amongst those people with whom you find yourself. So, meaning people that are already in front of you. That's it. You don't need to go find anybody else. It's whoever's already there.
Yeah, and you know what? I think it's probably worth noting, I would say, that for so many wanderers, they have found it over the years so difficult to survive in such a harsh environment that they can't do it and they commit suicide and end their lives because they just don't see how they fit in or where they fit in. And this passage, I think, is what makes me think of that being alive, that's it. Just simply existing, breathing in and out and keeping your heart beating. Every day that you do that is a day that you have succeeded in your mission and makes you that much stronger for the next day and the day after that. Or the next incarnation after that as well. Anybody else have any thoughts on this passage before we look at one other one on the open heart? Sounds good. This last one is from August 12th, 2007. And quote here said, "You came into this particular illusion having created for yourself, with the aid of your guidance system, your gifts, your challenges, and your relationships. You and your guidance together have planned the direction of your mission, both in terms of the mission of your being and the mission of your doing. In terms of the mission of your doing, you have only to consult your gifts, or what this instrument would call your skill set. Each of you has a cluster of gifts in a particular area. It may seem to be very humble and practical and down to earth. It may be mystical. It may be aesthetic. It may be creative. It may be as simple as the creation of a family. The creation of anything that can be created in this universe is equally worthy if it be created with love." I just find that such a beautiful thing, especially that last sentence there. It's just so beautiful. Susan, any thoughts, reflections on anything here?
Just briefly, this is just another reminder that it's so easy to get caught up with the notion that we need to be doing something and doing something important. And as I on and off the spiritual path and back on the spiritual path, and there's always this default belief that I need to be doing something that is important. It's such a default way of thinking, and it's a very hard habit to break. And I appreciated this advisory because it's so important. It's not about what you're doing. It's not about what you're doing, and it's about being. And like Linda and Louise said, keeping an open heart and loving what is there in front of you.
Yeah, and you think about it, our movies and TV shows sure feed into that. I mean, so many movies in the action movie genre and so many movies that rely on action and fights and battles and things, and not many movies about being or just being loving. Really hard. It's just, funny how we've conditioned our minds, I guess, to think of that way. What do you think, Luis? Anything to add?
What comes to my mind is, um, when quote discusses using our gifts, and particularly also getting assistance, right, from our own guidance system. Um, for me, uh, if I'm honest, I think for a long time I wanted to control my own gifts, and I had an idea of what they should be used for and how, right, and what the best way for me to do things. And I think over time, what I've realized is, yeah, like the best place for me to be in is to think of myself as an instrument, also, right? And um, I don't really know what music's gonna get played today, but as long as I show up and I just kind of offer myself, and I like that it mentions different kinds of gifts here, not just the mystical ones, but yeah, it could be something practical, something fun, something creative. We don't know what work is being done through us, on a moment by moment basis. So yeah, that stood out.
Sure. Yeah, it reminds me of that part where they talked about it may be as simple as creation of a family. Just the act of parenting, I think, is a huge thing. Bringing a new life, another soul into this world and helping guide it to adulthood. What an incredible sacrifice and what a beautiful gift. Or being an aunt or uncle or mentor to a younger person. It works on so many different levels for sure. What do you think, Linda? Anything to add?
Well, something that Louise said really struck me about the importance of working with your guidance team, with your higher self, your spirit guides, and your guardian angels, and asking them every morning when you get out of bed to assist you in your tasks that you have before you in the day, and to help to guide you on the path to where you can be of greater service to the planet. Because they can't assist you if you don't ask. And it must be so frustrating to be a guardian angel and sit there and scream, don't do that, but they can't. So please make sure that you guys, when you get up in the morning, you ask for help.
Such an important point, something that really cannot be emphasized enough, and really appreciate the reminder. It is something that I've made a point of doing in the last, I don't know, weeks, months, is really starting each day asking my guardian angels and spirit guides to help me do what I came to this incarnation to do and to help me be more of service to others and thanking them at the end of the day for all they've done. It has made a visible difference in my life since I started doing that. Anybody else? Anything to add on this passage? Nice. I believe we have just one more passage to look at. It's a fairly long one about remembering the mission. On July 31st, 2007, Quo said, "The commitment to be a wanderer is not to be taken lightly. It is thought out carefully and considered for a considerable amount of your time, indeed, centuries of your time, while the commitment to the work is perfected, refined, and honed to a sharp edge. It is an act of great courage to be a wanderer. What wanderers usually do not realize is that that which is so obvious and easy from the other side of the veil is impossible to read and difficult to bear within the thick veiling of the third density of earth, with its free will and its extremely thick veil. The danger always is that the wanderer will not wake up, or if it is partially awake, that it will awaken only to complain that it is not comfortable, that it wants to go home, that it must leave this place that is so polluted and dirty. To those who feel these feelings, we would suggest that it is precisely because this planet is so in need of higher vibrations that you came to serve at this time, to help lighten the vibrations of planet Earth. And you could not do this without incarnating and becoming one of the tribe of humankind. Your love was so great that you took that step, and now you have awakened, and you know how difficult a step it was to take. We encourage you to take hold of the honor and the duty of being a wanderer. That which you know of the higher planes, that which you remember in a dim or not so dim way. Bring into your heart and let it bless the environment that you see before you, just as it is. You are not here to clean it up. You are not here to make it right. You are not here to fix it, for all of the outer world is an illusion. You are here to love it. Take the world in your arms and embrace it. This is how you came to serve. This is your glory and your crown. Wear it well and rejoice in being here. As to what occurs if wanderers do not wake up, they, like all of the human tribe, walk the steps of light. If they have learned the lessons of love in this incarnation, they are free to move on. And if so, they may choose to go back to their native density. If they have instead remained asleep within this incarnation, then they shall have a refresher course in third density living, moving with others who have not graduated to fourth density to another planet, where they shall once again become students in third density's refinery of the souls. In either case, all is well. We have all the time in the universe to move through all natural energies and rhythms back to the Creator, who is waiting for you with great delight. And you do not wish to return too soon, for the Creator wishes to know the fullness of your experiences, your feelings, and your emotions. That is the harvest you bring back to the Creator. Whatever it is, He will love it, and you, now and forever. What a beautiful passage, and I sure love that part in the top paragraph here about you didn't come here to fix the world or change it. You came to love it as it is. That is definitely something I grapple with and struggle with more or less every day. What do you think, Luis? Any thoughts, reflections on anything from this passage?
Yeah, it is quite a beautiful passage, and there's so much in it too. Um, a funny comment is I read this with my wife once, and when she read that sentence about being, that the wanderer can get stuck thinking it must leave this place because it's dirty and polluted, she laughed. Because she's like, oh yeah, like I definitely have had that bias, like not just energetically, but even I think physically, just easily getting grossed out by things has been a part of my personality. But I didn't understand it right. I think this really kind of helped me understand it, why. Um, and one of the real big realizations in my life, Quo mentioned it in the second page. If you want to flip there real quick. Thanks. And it was, yeah, that, all of the outer world is an illusion, right? I think, wow, like for me, that was really huge to not just hear, but to really let it sink. That none of this is real. It's just a dream. And that has made my life so much easier, right? The weight of these experiences and these feelings, and hearing other people's suffering, feeling other people's suffering, right? Uh, Even though it doesn't really solve the dream, it doesn't make the dream pretty all of a sudden if you realize it is a dream. I think that there's just so much power in realizing that it is, because I guess for me, I've been able to step back more and just trust, right? Trust that even if I have to go to another dream next, I don't know what it's going to be. Hopefully, I made the cut, but even if I don't, it's still a dream, and I'll still go home.
Which is funny because I think that is just one of so many paradoxes about third density incarnations that in one sense it's true the outer world is an illusion, so you really shouldn't take anything too seriously. But on the other hand, I don't think they would be saying you shouldn't take your incarnation seriously and just treat it as a joke and not care about anything. I think on another level they just say that, yeah, you should take it very seriously and live as each day was your last opportunity to do this. So I don't, yeah, how people make out of it, I guess that's the challenge for all of us here in third density. What do you think, Linda? Anything to add? Any thoughts, reflections on anything?
Well, creation here was created, as we said, by the creator as a way of the creator learning about himself, because each one of us are part of that creator. And so it's wonderful to know that every experience that we undergo, whether it's a positive or a negative experience, is viewed with love by the creator because it's a gift to him and helping him learn more of himself. So there are no mistakes. Nothing that we do is a mistake. Nothing that we do is frowned upon or reviled. It is all a gift to the creator.
Yeah, so beautifully said, which I think echoes so much of what they said in the last paragraph here about you don't wish to return too soon, for the Creator wishes to know the fullness of your experiences, your feelings, and your emotions. That's the harvest you bring. I think so many of us would love to just like skip through all the hard parts and like get to the end. Can't get there soon enough. And what they're saying, I believe, is take your time. Like so many things, you'll be disappointed when you reach the end and you'll like wish you could go back and do it again or something. I don't know, maybe that's wishful thinking on my part, but it's about the journey, not the destination, I think is perhaps what they're saying here. What do you think, Susan? Anything to add?
I love what Linda and Luis and you said. I don't have anything else to add.
So beautiful. Such a beautiful passage. Really, yeah, and I think, like I said, this first one here, I think, is a real challenge, at least for me. I mean, as I look around at the world and see what's going on and see so many things that I see as negative, bad things, I'm reminded that, as they said, you're not here to clean it up, you're not here to make it right, and you're not here to fix it. For all the outer world is an illusion, as Luis was pointing out, and you're here to love it. What a beautiful thing. Again, in a way, I think it's huge in that it lifts the burden off of anybody's shoulders that you don't need to fix the world. All you need to do is be who you are on the deepest level and keep your heart open as much as possible. That is really the mission. It's what you came here to do. And I just find that so reassuring and inspiring. And I appreciate all of you for doing it in your own ways. That was the last passage we had. Did anybody else have any final thoughts, passage on this before we start wrapping things up? Sounds good. So where do we go from here? What are some takeaway lessons we might have from our hour and a half long conversation? I got 5 for you to consider. 1, remember you came here to lighten earth energies just by being yourself. You came to graduate and to help others graduate. That was the whole purpose for Wanderers, to help increase the harvest, to help others make that leap from third density to fourth density or beyond. And it's easy to forget your mission on a daily basis. So many things, so many ways. So just remember you did have a mission when you came here. And that mission was largely to keep your heart open as often as you can for as long as you can. And lastly, it's impossible to fail. No matter what you do, it is literally impossible to fail as long as you are alive and drawing breath. What do you think? Linda, any takeaway lessons of your own you'd like to add? Any final thoughts on this topic?
I thought number 5 is absolutely perfect. It is impossible to fail at this lesson. And as you said, this is the time, this is the place. We are alive right now. After we pass on, we're going to wish that we could come back and do this, continue to do this, to continue to love, because once we pass on, then we have to sit there and do life reviews and all that other fun stuff. This is honestly, this is the place to be. This is the party. We got the golden ring. We are riding this merry-go-round and we are having a ball. So, I mean, that's all there is to it.
But it's so easy to forget, isn't it? It's so easy to get caught up in the drama and the fears, to give in to fear instead of love, as I think Susan was saying. Susan, anything to add? Any takeaway lessons of your own or final thoughts?
The importance of Catalyst, not to run away from it and try to build a life of comfort.
Wow. Beautifully said. Yes, indeed. We came for the catalyst. Luis, anything to add?
Yes, I'll just comment. I think the illusory aspect has, particularly here, it's so intense. It gives us the opportunity to express these very, very deep emotions and energies so strongly, so purely. And I think of it as like, you're stepping up into a performance, a concert, right? And maybe you've been practicing, and this is the chance, right? You're in the spotlight, and not only is it about executing the song, but it's like feeling it. It's connecting with the audience. It's creating, something that's more than what is seen. So even though, yeah, the paradox you said earlier, Jonathan, even if it's just an illusion, it's just a dream, it's so beautiful, useful, powerful, and we are lucky to be here, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah. Well, it's like lucid dreaming, to be in the middle of a dream in the middle of the night and to be aware in the dream that you're actually dreaming is a beautiful, powerful thing. And to be in the illusion of incarnation and to know that it's an illusion and to be able to work with that, I think very similar. Something we addressed in our podcast episode on dream work not that long ago, I believe. Anybody else? Any final thoughts on this?
No.
As always, I really appreciate the discussion and really appreciated hearing everybody's different perspectives on it. Did want to let our viewers know that if you enjoyed this episode, you might want to check out our very first episode on Wanderers, where we covered a lot of this stuff as well as awakenings, both about personal awakenings and planetary awakenings. The whole episode on graduation, harvest, on service to others, some beautiful passages about how to be more of service to others, to polarize more purely. Game of life, because in many ways your third density incarnation is in fact very similar, very much like a game of life, and a lot of beautiful passages on that and how to enjoy the game. And Hero's Journey, for those of you who are familiar with the good work of Joseph Campbell, yes, you could very much say your mission in this incarnation is very much like a hero's journey, and it has been talked about in many passages. It is time for our pop quiz. Pop quiz, of course, is something we like to do at the end of our time together, just to kind of end our otherwise serious conversations on a light note and maybe look for Law of One connections in pop culture. Since today's episode was about the mission, you don't really have to be a genius to figure out what the pop quiz is about. It is, of course, about the spy movie franchise starring Tom Cruise that has the word mission in its name. I'm referring to what, panelists?
Mission Impossible.
Yes, indeed. Panelists, have you seen any or all of these movies?
Yep.
Most of them.
Nice.
Most,
Susan?
most of them. I haven't seen the most recent one.
Oh,
I
nice.
saw the most recent one on an airplane. So
What did you think? Did you like it?
I love anything that has Tom Cruise in it, to be honest. I'm
He
a Tom
is.
Cruise geek.
I'm a fan of a lot of his movies. I agree. Him as a person, I'm not so sure about. He seems like kind of a questionable person, but yeah, for sure. And I've seen all 8 of the movies, and I loved the last one too. I thought it was a very worthy way to end a franchise. We'll see where it goes from here. So, panelists, I am going to ask you a few questions about Mission Impossible movie franchise. See how many you can answer correctly. Just go ahead, say your answers out loud. You who are watching this on video, go ahead, say your answers out loud. We can hear you through time space. As always, the points don't matter. If you had fun, you won. It is worth noting that our good friend Latwii actually referenced Mission Impossible back on February 26, 1989. Latwii said, "Now you sit in the midst of the greatest decision you shall make within the entire octave of experience of what you would call men and angels, the choice to love or to be obeyed. Once you have made this decision, it then becomes your task, if you wish to complete it, as Mission Impossible would say, to choose ever again, to give when you could receive, to console when you yourself need consoling, to care and feel and love when others turn away in scorn and dislike. Such a beautiful summary of third density indeed. Let's check out our questions. First question. Who was the movie studio's first choice to play the role of Ethan Hunt? Was it A, George Clooney, B, Nicolas Cage, C, Mel Gibson, or D, Tom Cruise? Panelists, what do you think? Take a guess.
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise.
What do you think, Susan?
Nicolas Cage.
Nice. Would it be a different movie? For sure. Yeah, interesting enough, as hard as it is to imagine anybody in this role as Tom Cruise, in this role other than Tom Cruise, he was not the movie studio's first choice at that time. They did, in fact, offer the part to George Clooney, but he turned it down because there was another movie he wanted to work on at that time called One Fine Day. Apparently, according to reports, Nicolas Cage, Mel Gibson, Bruce Willis, and John Travolta were all considered for the part before Tom Cruise got it. But he really did want that part, and he worked hard for it, so they did eventually give it to him. And yeah, did such a wonderful job. You guys Tom Cruise fans? Linda, you have any other movies that come to mind of Tom Cruise's that you're a fan of?
Top Gun and A Few Good Men.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I love A Few Good Men. That is one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time, for sure.
That was Morris and
Susan?
we went there on our first date.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, what a cool first date. Oh,
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah, he was great in that movie, as was Jack Nicholson and everyone else in that movie. Directed by Rob Reiner, who passed away fairly recently, just within this past week in 2025. Beautiful soul, for sure. Anybody else? Luis, Susan, can you think of any other Tom Cruise movies that you've really enjoyed?
I like his sci-fi stuff with aliens, and they're a little bit crazy, but Oblivion and The Edge of Tomorrow, they're interesting.
Edge of Tomorrow, such a great movie with Emily Blunt as well. Yeah. He was in Minority Report also. I researched this. I knew there were a lot of movies he was in that I liked, but I had to Google up Tom Cruise movies to remember what they were. So kudos to anyone who actually remembered anything other than Mission Impossible. But yeah, Minority Report is another great science fiction movie made from a Philip K. Dick dystopian future novel, but made into a great movie. Susan, can you think of any Tom Cruise movies?
No, I guess I can say that I like him best in Mission Impossible movies.
Yeah. He was so great in it. Are you ready for your second question? Your second question is, which Mission Impossible movie had the most mask reveals? That is one of the coolest things about movies, is where they take off their mask and reveal who they are. So which movie had the most number of those? Was it the first one, the second one, the third one, or the last one? What do you think?
I say the last one.
Nice.
I'll say B, the second one.
I'll say C.
Wow. Nice. Believe it or not, it is the first one. Apparently there were 4 in the very first one.
Yeah.
I would not have guessed that either. I would have guessed for one of the other ones as well. But yeah, that's funny. These things always crack me up because every time I see that happen on screen, it reminds me of, I'll bet that's what it's like after we end this incarnation and come out from behind the veil. We all take our masks off and we get to see each other for who we really are as energy beings or members of our soul family, or I don't know, whatever the fuck, whatever planet we came from other than Earth. That would just be super funny. How about one more? This last one. Other than Tom Cruise, which actor or actors appeared in all 8 Mission Impossible movies? Was it A, Ving Rhames, B, Simon Pegg, C, Rebecca Ferguson, or D, Henry Czerny?
I'm going to say B.
B's a good guess.
I think it was both A, B, and C.
Nice. Good guess. Susan?
My guess is Simon Pegg, B.
Nice. Good guess. I unfortunately did not count the number of movies that Simon Pegg, Rebecca Ferguson, or Henry Czerny was in, but apparently Ving Rhames is the only actor other than Tom Cruise who's actually been in all 8 movies. And such a great actor and such a great role as the computer hacker and genius and maybe best friend of Tom Cruise in this movie. Such a great one.
Well, we scored a 0.
Good time to remind you the points don't matter. If you had fun, if you learned something new about this movie that you didn't know before, or if you made any Law of One connections, that'll be great. He was, of course, also well known for his role in Pulp Fiction as Marcellus Wallace. Any of you guys see Pulp Fiction?
Yeah.
Of course.
Of course. Hard to think of any movie that's more unlaw of one than Pulp Fiction. So brutal, so violent, and yet, indeed, in terms of what we were talking about earlier about, being able to toughen yourself and being able to appreciate the dark as well as the light. Yeah, that movie would be a great example. Panelists, as always, it's been a pleasure and a joy and a privilege hanging out with you. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. To all our friends at L&L Research, thank you for all you've done, continue to do in service to others. And to you who are watching this on video at some time in the near or distant future, thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. We're sending you our love light, and we are receiving yours. Until next time, in the love and light of the one infinite creator, Adonai, namaste. Say goodbye, panelists.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Enjoy the journey.